Happy Friday, everyone. It's time for another exciting episode of Ask Us Anything, and we're going to kick things off with a whole bunch of Terminator questions because it feels like a lot of people have been watching Terminator Zero and like it very much. It is the brand new anime adaptation by Mattson Tomlin, who was partly responsible for the Batman reboot, and he's done a anime series that kind of reinvigorates the Terminator franchise in many ways. And a lot of our followers seem to have questions. The first one, at Cinemonesh, asks, I just finished Terminator Zero and loved it. My question is, what to you guys are the essential elements every good Terminator story, film, or TV show needs to have?
Oh, a Terminator for one.
Killer robots, for sure.
Yeah.
I don't think they need to keep pushing the envelope with regards to, oh, we did liquid metal. Now we have solid metal and liquid metal together. And they did the liquid metal thing in Terminator 2 and it was super cool. And then the following movies tried to one up it. And I think that was unnecessary. I think Robert Patrick was just really, really cool in the role and played it to perfection. Killer robots, period. For sure. I think there has to be a time travel element. And I think there has to be a kick-ass rebel fighter. But for me, those are the three elements that I think are necessary. Apart from that, just have fun with it.
To sort of go back to what you're talking about with the raising of the robotic stakes, I feel like that's unnecessary. I've seen the first couple episodes of Terminator Zero, and it feels like what's scarier is just this unstoppable thing. It doesn't need to be able to transform into a tank or a missile or whatever. I think the fact that you can't stop it easily.
I think what was cool about Terminator Zero as well was you really saw that unstoppable nature play out. Like from the very first few seconds of the TV show with the showdown with that robot and how she just kept pummeling it and it just kept coming. And that for me is just a key landmark of the series. It's what made it so scary. So it wasn't just sci-fi. It was really rooted in horror as well. And that's something James Cameron did in the first two movies. That's all the essential elements I would like. I never like adding essential elements to these sorts of things because I feel it quite inhibiting. When people start getting caught up in canon and what works and what is the core element and all of that stuff, I think it limits writers' abilities and filmmakers' abilities to kind of grow the story. So, yeah, as long as there are killer robots, kick-ass rebel fighters, and time travel, I think you've got a good Terminator movie or TV show.
At Travesty asks, in the Terminator franchise, why does everyone need to strip naked in order to time travel? It really puts them either to go save lives or take lives at a disadvantage. I don't know what the actual reason is, but I have a reason.
I have a reason too, and I don't know what the actual reason is either, but I think it's because of all the electricity will burn off your clothes.
Same. Yeah, I think...
Practical reason.
I think it's a practical, in-universe reason, right? Like, maybe the electricity will cause the things to burn and then you essentially show up with third-degree burns, which is just stupid then. That feels like a good enough in-universe logical reason.
Yes, it's like how if you get struck by lightning with clothes on, the clothes will like embed into your skin. And because this whole ball is a giant ball of lightning that teleports you through time, maybe they say, just stay naked. It doesn't really explain why the lightning doesn't kill you or burn your skin.
Again, I'm just thinking it's a logic thing, right? Like the electricity just sort of passes through you. I'm sure it hurts. I'm sure it's tiring, but like...
I think they just wanted to see Arnie naked. He was at the top of his game back then.
He was Mr. Universe though.
Yeah, so, he was on top form. Why do you want him to wear clothes?
Have him topless for a while.
Exactly. At Rabbit Hop asks, what do you think would be a good news story for the Terminator franchise to explore other than going back in the past to keep protecting future saviors? I believe this is a problem with the Terminator franchise because they keep rehashing the same thing over and over again. And that's why I really liked Terminator Zero, because it's like America and Skynet are the bad guys, but Japan might be able to save you. And I liked it because it was different. It wasn't just about the leader of the resistance. This is the chosen one who can save us in that big fight against Skynet. It actually had to do with the philosophy of AI and robots and what makes us human and all of that stuff. And that kind of discussion was taking place as well. Yes, he was also the head of an AI corporation which had a competing robot slash AI, but I thought it was different enough. But moving forward, I would like to see a better exploration of that world, of the future world. For me, I want to go into the future already. I want to stay there because it feels like no matter what happens, Judgment Day is coming.
Yeah.
And that's what the further movies kind of proved, even though they kept sending people back in time.
You know what they should do? They should do like the Battlestar Galactica spin-off. I can't remember what it was called.
Caprica.
Caprica. Yeah. So essentially, a cool TV show would be not that Skynet has already broken the planet and that things are going to shit and we're just following rebels, because they tried to do that and it didn't work. What about the years before that happens? What about that moment where Skynet comes alive and all the humans in the future times think it's the savior of us all, and how this is going to be great? I think that could be cool, like that as a starting point before Skynet takes over.
So that would be a different take, because at the moment, what happens is as soon as Skynet comes alive, it makes all the computations that humanity is a problem and launches all the nukes. So it's almost immediate that it destroys humanity. There is no in-between space. I think if you want to change the lore a bit, that would be a good thing to do. Also because that's where we are right now with the advent of AI and robots. We're like, oh good, they will be our saviors and our servants, and they will help us do all the things we don't want to do until they kill us in our sleep. But that could be a good way. I was thinking, what happens if we fast forward after the war? So Skynet has won, but not all of humanity is destroyed. Obviously, there are remnants. What happens then? So we fast forward past the human-robot war, but the winners are Skynet. And there's maybe a small population of human beings left who aren't fighting anymore. Maybe they're slaves. Maybe they're in hiding. And that would be something interesting. Is it a Matrix-like situation? Are they enslaved?
But I think that makes sense, because from a purely computational point of view, if you don't need something, you get rid of it. And I don't think they will need humans.
We have no answer for you, Rabbit Hawk. We're just making shit up as we go along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At Daphne M88 asks, could you recommend similar animes with the same animation style and the level of gore and violence? It would be great if you could recommend a horror one too.
Yeah, you want me to take this?
I mean, I would say go back to the classics. Akira
is both sci-fi and horror, so that's good.
And also very violent and gory.
Yes.
If you haven't seen it, you probably really should. Ghost in the Shell.
Yep.
Yeah, do that. Do those first. I think any of the newer ones, I'm hoping Uma will be able to answer.
Yeah, I mean, I would say after you've seen the Ghost in the Shell movie, then I would watch Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex, which is the series. Psycho Pass is a very good series. Space Battleship Yamato 2199 is a very good one. For horror stuff, there's a very old series called Serial Experiments Lane that's cool. Perfect Blue is a cool psychological horror film. And Higurashi When They Cry is a very good series as well, which has horror elements. There's a lot, Daphne. Once you go down that anime road, there's a whole bunch of stuff that you can watch. But these ones that we've recommended are pretty high-end narratively. So I think you're not going to go wrong with those. So check those out first. I don't know where they're available. I think some of them might be on Netflix. Some of them might be on Crunchyroll, which is also available in Malaysia. But various streaming platforms have the rights to different kinds of anime. So you can find some anime on Disney Plus Hotstar, some on Netflix. I think even HBO has some, Prime has some. So have a look around and see where you can find these. But yes, the anime road is a slippery, slippery slope.
Not for me.
Not for Bahir, though. At Brandon Ho Sheng Vern asks, so regarding the Minecraft movie trailer, what are your thoughts on it? And are you worried about the final product when it comes out? Let me say this. I used to play Minecraft a long time ago, and I couldn't care less about this movie. It's very hard for me to muster up any kind of giving a shit about this Minecraft movie. The trailer just makes it look like Jumanji again. I don't know what they're doing. I know it's just a teaser, so I'm not going to judge it from it. But what the fuck is up with Jason Momoa's hair? I cannot get past that hair.
Brandon, I don't mean this in any way disparagingly, but like, I don't think either of us will be worried about the final product of that. I'm hoping it's better than the Emoji film. I'm hoping it's closer to the Sonic movies. I don't care about the IP. I think Jason Momoa is just doing another Jason Momoa having fun kind of movie. Like, what was that Dream Netflix one that he did?
That was quite fun. I like that one.
But this feels like a Jason Momoa character.
Yes, it does.
It feels like that kind of guy, and that's fine. I mean, I like Jason Momoa as a character actor, and I think if I can get through it with enough laughs, that will be fine for me.
I think you're going to get exactly what is said on the tin. And I think whatever expectations you may have of a Minecraft movie, that is exactly what you're going to get. And that trailer delivered on those expectations. I didn't have any expectations at all, but it felt like, oh yeah, that sounds about and looks about right.
I think my only concern would be that it feels like it was written by someone who has seen or heard about Minecraft.
Well, hopefully that's not the case. I would like to be pleasantly surprised. I would love it to be, like you said, like the Sonic movies, which were so much fun, really understood the product, really understood the character, and actually did something completely different by bringing him into the human world, right? And that made it very cute and wholesome and family friendly. I'm hoping it's smart like that, but I don't know based on this trailer. Then again, the trailer looked like they didn't have much yet. It looks like it's still in post production and they strung some stuff together because even the funny bits they showed us didn't feel very funny at all. Hopefully, the full trailer gives us a little more to go on. But for now, yeah.
At Emias asks, how many seasons should there be for the Rings of Power? How much did we really miss from the Lord of the Rings books that weren't in the movies? Well, there was a lot.
A lot lah. In the books, it took them 12 years to leave the fucking Shire. There was no sense of urgency at all in the books. This is what people fail to understand. There is so much in the books that Peter Jackson just went, fuck it, not important. Let's just make the action version, which is great for cinema.
I accept that. So I think his compression of time is important. I think you can't have Gandalf going away for a year and a half to look through the archives of something. You can't do that. And that's fine. That's okay. My biggest complaints about a lot of the bits within the movie is the redrawing of certain characters, right? Quick, easy example. In the movie, Farmer Maggot is seen as a villain.
Yes.
Right? He chases these hobbits off his garden and they're like, get off my lawn. In the book, they stay over at Farmer Maggot's house.
Yeah.
They have lunch and dinner with him. Farmer Maggot gives them food. Farmer Maggot gives them an old donkey to take the food with them. Farmer Maggot puts them in the cart and hides them from the ring race as they go to the Bridge of Bree. Farmer Maggot is a hero.
Yeah.
In the movie, they just made him out to be this crazy old man who hates these four hobbits. And I think for the movie, that was necessary. As much as I love the book, I love the movies as well.
Same.
It's something that we talk about, right? We don't want to see a faithful slavish adaptation of a book. We want to see a new retelling for the format that it's coming out for.
Also, you cannot, because there is so much in the book by way of history and exposition and explanation and all of that stuff, which just wouldn't work on screen. It would make for
And
a very,
songs
very
and
boring
poetry.
TV show. Exactly. Some of the songs are okay lah. And I think even when it happened in The Hobbit, I was like, oh, well, that's nice. They included some of the songs. But then Peter Jackson went too far and wrote his own version of The Hobbit as well.
The problem is Peter Jackson did the right things by compressing the Lord of the Rings, but then did the wrong things by expanding on The Hobbit.
Yes, agreed. Also, I think it's important to note the one thing that the books portray very well that the movies did not. That lack of urgency, I think, is actually important. The fact that it took 12 years to leave the Shire and do all of that stuff, it kind of showed that Sauron, Morgoth, all of the first age, second age, third age, it happens over these really extended periods of time, that evil doesn't come overnight. And I think that was the whole point that he was trying to make, right? That it takes root in the hearts of men and all of this stuff. And it's not, hey, let's go on an adventure and a week later we've defeated the bad guy. No, it takes time, it happens, and that's how it becomes so ingrained in us.
Also, just a quick one. Lady Arwen isn't a major character in the book.
In the books, no.
So for all those people who are complaining about, wokeness and all that, that is the same complaint that can be thrown at Peter Jackson from 25, 30 years ago. I think it's stupid. I love the version of Lady Arwen that Peter Jackson and gang wrote. She literally is an ornament for Aragon. Literally, right? There was a different elf that played a bigger part, but they've smushed the characters together and made Arwen that character. And that's fine. I think that's great. It's not a problem. As with your first question, how long do we think it should run? I think it should run for as long as it needs to. I want as many seasons as the writers feel is important to tell their story.
And there's a lot of story to tell.
There's a lot of story to tell. Again, this is the second age. There's a lot of things to tell, right? The character growth of Elrond, the character growth of Galadriel, the fall of Khazad-dûm, the rise of Saruman, the rise of Sauron. You can tell a lot. The fall of Numenor, I'd love to see that. There's a lot of things here to do and a lot of stories to tell. I hope they get the opportunity to do it.
At Yuliong07 asks 3 questions, and we'll get to them one by one. First, why haven't you guys watched Industry? We have, or I have. I've watched the first 2 seasons. I'm a little behind. I haven't caught up on season 3 yet. We've just been very, very busy because there have been a lot of things to watch. But in a nutshell, it's a fucking great show. I think we even did some interviews for season 1 with some of the cast way back when it came out and nobody knew anything about Industry. It really took us by surprise. And I think it's a show that's gone from strength to strength, and we've heard very great things about season 3. We will get to it. Part 2. You guys know Yasmin Ahmad. What do you guys think about her as a director, screenwriter, and as a friend? And a continuation of that, question 3. Of all her films, if you had to recommend one, which would it be? I didn't know Yasmin personally. I'd met her a couple of times, but that's about it. It was at events and in passing, brief conversations. But Bahir, you were a close friend and you learned a lot from her. Why don't you take that first part of the question?
Yes, I think I can safely call her a friend. She was a lovely lady. She was classy to no end. She was a great giver of advice, very easy to ask questions. I tried to quit being producer at one point and I texted her and she told me to not. You know what I loved most about her was that she was always willing to help. The reason I met her was because me and a couple of my friends were making our first feature film and we thought it would be cool to have her as a cameo because this was just after Sepit, I believe. So she was the hot name around and we just reached out, randomly sent her an email and she said, yeah, come on down to the office, have a meeting, had a quick chat. She, made fun of me several times, which is always sweet. But she's a sweet, classy, lovely lady.
Actually, we were just talking about this, about her as a commercial director. And I think for me, that's something that has had a lasting impact and legacy, which has often gone the wrong way. Because Yasmin made fantastic commercials for television, and the one she is most known for are festive commercials, right? Everybody knows them. We watch them on YouTube over and over again. But since that point, every stupid corporate entity in Malaysia has decided, oh, let's just make another Yasmin commercial lah. And in their heads, that idea is, oh, let's just make another commercial yang sedih. Oh, my grandfather is dying. Oh, look, my grandfather is Malay, but he also has a Chinese and an Indian friend. Oh, look, you're a terrible son for not looking after your mother and father. But I think they missed the point. All of Yasmin's commercials weren't that. They had elements of pathos, but at the same time, they had a real stark humor to them. And they were so well observed about Malaysian society and the way we interact with each other as people. And I think that's where her skill really lied, right? And none of these new fuckers know what they're doing. I'm sorry, but every time I see one of those goddamn commercials come out year after year after year, it's like the same guy wrote the script. Oh, what is the saddest shit you can come up with? Oh, it's so frustrating. And every time someone calls it, oh, a Yasmin style commercial, I really want to slap them. I'm like, you don't understand what those commercials were about.
You know what it is? When people say they want a Yasmin Ahmad commercial, what they're thinking of is they want a Yasmin Ahmad film, but in commercial form.
Yeah.
Because remember, Yasmin Ahmad's commercials were funny as shit.
Yeah.
The Bangsa Indians one was her,
yes,
right?
Party.
The one about that young girl and young boy, the interview.
Yes.
People think that that's sweet and a little romantic, but I saw it as funny. I saw it as humorous, and I think that's where Yasmin Ahmad's real skill lies. It's not just being able to tell a heartfelt, heartstringy police story. It's the seeing the comedy in the human condition. That yes, it is sweet, but it's also really cute and funny that these two kids are talking the way they are.
And as for your third question, Sip It. I would always recommend Sip It. It's actually re-showing in cinemas right now. You can catch it at GSC, which is the perfect time in time for Merdeka and Malaysia Day. But for me, Sip It is the favorite.
I feel like that's an easy question. Okay. After you've seen Sepet, what is the next Yasmin Ahmad film?
Rabun.
Same. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I honestly can skip the rest.
Mm.
I mean, you watch it if you have the time. But Sepet and Rabun stand out as being very, very good films.
At X-Ray and Drops asks, Star Wars Outlaws doesn't really add anything to the canon story, even though it's part of the timeline. However, do you think the video game characters will appear in the Star Wars movies or series universes? It'll be cool to see Starkiller appear on the big screen. I haven't played Star Wars Outlaws. I feel like there is a real unfortunate need for anything with the Star Wars title to be related to anything else with a Star Wars title. I think the Star Wars Outlaws being in the same timeline doesn't have to add to the canon story.
I think it depends, lah, in the sense that fan favorite characters just show up because creators, Lucasfilm, figure they want to throw things into the main movies or the main TV shows or whatever. And for me, you know what the biggest problem is? For me, the biggest problem is it doesn't fucking matter. You know why? Because for Star Wars, the movies always take precedent over everything else. And if tomorrow they decide, you know what, this ain't fucking canon anymore, fuck you. Whatever happens in the movies is the most important thing. And that's always been the case. When they relaunched the series, they relegated everything to what they call Star Wars Legends until Dave Filoni went, you know what, that Thrawn guy is pretty cool, right? So let's bring him back in. Honestly, the canon here doesn't matter. They will do whatever they damn well please. But the one thing you can be certain is that only the things that happen in the movies matter. I think if they felt like it, they would even tell the cartoons to fuck off. Like they did so with the Cartoon Network series, remember?
Yeah.
There was that hand-drawn animated Clone Wars series
Yeah.
by Gendy Tartakovsky, which was different from Clone Wars, but I don't think the hand-drawn one is actually officially part of canon. So it's very frustrating with the Star Wars timeline and canon and all of that stuff.
I think the villain there isn't Kathleen Kennedy or Disney or whatever. I would think that Disney would want more children's cartoons.
Oh, for sure.
More toys to sell. But I just think that as an organization, specifically Lucasfilm, is just focused on and most concerned about the cinema stuff.
Exactly. The villain there is no one in particular. The villain there is the fact that the cinematic releases are the most important thing to them. And everything else is secondary and filler.
I think I like that Star Wars Outlaws doesn't add anything to the canon story.
Not only that, for me, I'm totally okay with the fact that it's just a video game story because I don't think seeing it on the big screen adds credibility to it. I think the fact that these characters are great in a video game is also good. I'm playing Star Wars Outlaws at the moment, and yes, it's a very fun game, and the characters are very, very cool, but I'm okay with them just being in the game.
I think a lot of people get a little caught up with the Star Wars title, right? It's an entire universe with multiple planets in different places. So these stories can all happen at the same time without having any characters cross over to anything. It doesn't matter. So even in universe, it's okay that we never see Starkiller have lunch with Luke Skywalker at the cantina. And it's not important. It's completely unimportant.
At Kailash Laxman asks, we're exactly a month away from Joker Folie Deux. What are your expectations? And which portrayal of the clown prince of crime has been your favorite so far? So, I don't have many expectations. I enjoyed the first Joker movie. I thought it was a very well-made film. I do have my issues with it being called Joker because I think it has nothing to do with Joker or Batman. It just happens to be set in Gotham, and I believe if you are making a movie about Joker, I feel it's impossible to have that character without Batman. I think this movie, if it was made the way it was, which was very much an homage to Scorsese, I think it would still have worked if it was a random white incel dude and not someone with the baggage that comes with being Joker. That said, Todd Phillips made a fantastic movie. It was beautifully shot, and Joaquin Phoenix was great. The trailers for Folie à Deux have me very excited. I do believe I'm going to get a little frustrated if I keep thinking of Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn. So I'm going to go into it not thinking of it as a Batman related movie. I think I will have a better time.
Since the release of the first Joker, I've always said that I think I don't understand a world where the character, the Joker in Gotham, shows up without the Batman character. The Joker doesn't exist without the Batman. And I think just adding that baggage just gives it an anchor that it can never get away from.
Yes.
That being said, I thought the movie was fine. I think the movie as a Scorsese homage is a beautiful thing. Am I excited for the new one? Excited is probably the wrong word. What are my expectations? I don't know. I'm just going to go and watch it. I don't know. My issue is that my own personal hang-ups with the Joker really held me back from enjoying that movie. Yeah, and I think it's something that I have to work on personally. So for that, I'm going to try and go into this new film with a more open mind.
As for which portrayal, animated version, Mark Hamill is the GOAT, but for live action, I am a huge Jack Nicholson fan. I think Jack Nicholson's Joker from the first Michael Keaton, Tim Burton Batman just stands out. I mean, don't get me wrong, Heath Ledger was fun, but Jack Nicholson was the Joker that I grew up watching. He was the closest to Batman 66 style Joker.
Yeah, I mean, the original TV show Batman had Cesar Romero as the Joker, and I think for better or for worse, that was the Joker that a lot of people imprinted on, right? Like, I think Jack Nicholson's Joker is a 1989 version of what is Cesar Romero Joker would have been. And I think the Heath Ledger Joker is the one that a lot of the comics sort of picked up on after that for a while. But the current Joker in the comics feels is a good mix between that Jack Nicholson and Heath Ledger style Joker.
But also for me, Joker still feels embarrassed to be a comic book movie.
Yes.
And
yes,
I always have an issue with that.
Yeah.
I think even with Nolan, yes, he serioused it up a little bit, but he still had some very strong comic book elements in his films. So he wasn't really running away from it, at least in Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. But I feel like with Todd Phillips and Joker, yeah, it still feels like, this comic book stuff is below us. Let's elevate this to something else.
This is serious capital C cinema.
Correct.
Trying to make here.
Yeah. I am looking forward to it. I am interested. I am cautiously optimistic. I can't wait to watch it next month.
At Anis Seedling asks, I love binge watching Emily in Paris and Virgin River on Netflix. My husband thinks that my taste for TV series is shit. He wants me to watch shows like Pachinko, Slow Horses, and Succession. He terms it elite television. This, to me, calls for a breakup. What do you think?
I mean, maybe no divorce your husband just yet, lah.
Yeah, I think you guys may need to go through therapy.
We can help on that.
We can help. We
Yes.
can be those guys. Yeah. No, look, okay. For me, I agree with your husband that those things are bad television. However, I don't think you should stop watching it.
Correct. I may not like Emily in Paris, but you watch what the fuck you want to watch and what makes you happy.
It's 2024. The world is shit. If you need to watch a couple episodes of Emily in Paris to get through your day, all power to you, my friend.
You know what? Don't stop there. Selling Sunset is one of my favorite shows. Love is Blind, motherfucker.
Oh, God. Yeah, okay.
Just enjoy that shit. I mean, yes, it's mindless, but it's mindless for a purpose. And it's mindless for a reason.
However, I will also agree partly with your husband in that you should also be watching Pachinko, Slow Horses, and Succession.
Which is what I was going to say. I think there's room for all of it. A lot of the time, after I'm done with a heavy episode of Pachinko, I will watch my good friends at Selling Sunset try to sell houses and bitch on one another for 45 minutes. It's fun and it's mindless and it gets my mind off things. And don't get me wrong, I also think those reality TV things are incredibly smartly crafted because I think they know how to address human psychology in a very fascinating way, which is why they keep us watching over and over and over again, right? Yes, Slow Horses, Succession are some of the best things on television. And yes, there is room for them. However, I don't think your diet should only be that. I don't think our cinematic diet can only be French new wave fucking cinema, or you would lose your mind. I think you need some Marvel movies in there. You need some trashy comedies. You need all of that stuff. It's like what you have when you have a well rounded meal: vegetables, protein, a bit of carbohydrates, but you got to have that dessert, you got to have that ice cream. Just don't do one thing in excess. Because I think if all you watch is reality TV as well, your brain is going to rot.
The examples you've given here is perfect, right? Emily in Paris is an all-in-one drop. Pachinko is a weekly show, right? So watch Pachinko, watch a couple episodes of Emily in Paris, then go watch Slow Horses, and then watch a couple episodes of Virgin River, and then go watch Succession. I think it's perfect.
Don't divorce your husband just yet.
Just yet.
He doesn't need to call it elite television love because that's a pretty wanky thing. But other than that, give Slow Horses a try, give Pachinko a try.
Also, if your husband is recommending these films and these TV shows, and if they're not for you, ask us. We have other shows that we can recommend that may not be a painful story about Japanese occupation in 1940s South Korea. There will be other things that we can give you that will be considered good television, but not that.
At Lego Fan in PJ asks, it may not surprise you that even outside of US election season, I stay wary of every news and media outlet, especially those which I personally regard as scum. Fox News! That said, I'm wondering if anyone out there has figured out the political alignment of the following fictional media outlets in pop culture. 1, the Daily Planet when it's not owned by Lex Luthor. 2, the Daily Bugle, especially during the Jonah Jameson era. And 3, Carver Media Group Network from Tomorrow Never Dies. I don't know if anyone has actually done a write up on this, but I think I have a pretty good idea of where they might stand. Perry White of the Daily Planet feels like a very liberal editor, and I have a feeling that he might lean towards Democrat. If you're talking about the American political system, I think they lean a bit more liberal, especially given the kind of investigative reporting that Lois Lane and Clark Kent are always doing and that he is supporting.
But also, I've read some comics where the Daily Planet have had some, let's say, opposing journalists in their roster as well.
Yes,
right?
they do.
I'd much rather say they were something like, the New York Times, the LA Times, the Washington Post, where they may lean liberal from the outside, but I think internally they may also be quite conservative at times.
I think the Daily Bugle during the Jonah Jameson era was probably a lot more conservative. It's either that or he just dislikes Spider-Man. But even so, I think they probably leaned a lot more conservative than the Daily Planet. But the Carver Media Group from Tomorrow Never Dies, I think Jonathan Pryce's character was modeled after Rupert Murdoch. So for me, it's Fox, right? But even then, Murdoch is distancing himself from Trump now. So the one thing you can trust with billionaires is that they are going to go wherever is good for their business. And I don't think that their political leanings really matter. I think they will support whoever is good for them.
I feel like Carver Media Group is very much British and maybe Australian Rupert Murdoch.
Yes.
They will have photos of half-naked women in the newspaper because they think that will sell more. The whole mobile phone tapping thing of the Daily Mail. So that feels like something the Carver Media Group would do. At Iman Bahari asks, a somewhat easygoing question. Thank you very much, Iman Bahari. What's your best and worst cinema experience? Could be anywhere.
My best cinema experience for a not so good movie, but it was the best cinema experience.
Okay.
I'm going to take you to Italy, my friend, to Florence.
Let's go.
Because I so happened to be in Italy, in Florence, when they released the third Dan Brown movie. And so the setting was perfect, but also it's fucking Florence. So this cinema is set in this old school Italian architecture building with like columns and shit. And it was just absolutely stunning to watch a movie in that environment. That was very, very cool. And I think that might be one of my best cinema experiences. I think the second one on that list is probably Endgame,
Yeah.
when Captain America does the whole Avengers Assemble thing. And it was great just because of the audience. We were at one of the first screenings early in the morning. I think it was like 6 or 5 in the morning or something stupid like that at TGV, at the IMAX, and everyone just screamed. Like, it was amazing. On a similar note, the first time I watched The Phantom Menace, when R2D2 first came on screen. And of course, you're watching it on the first day with a whole bunch of fans, and they go, "What is that droid's call sign?" And then the guy goes, "R2D2," and everyone just screams out loud. I love those moments. Like when I was watching The Last Jedi, and is it the Holdo maneuver? Was that what it was called? I can't remember now. When she rams that ship, and there are those seconds of silence.
Yes.
And you hear the whole cinema gasp. And I remember watching The Last Jedi multiple times in Malaysian cinemas. And every time I went, there's a collective gasp. And like, those are the moments I live for in the cinema, where you really feel that communal watching experience. For me, that's what makes cinema great.
I will have to agree with you with regards to the best cinematic experience. I think that Avengers fight at the end, I said, just the excitement in the room was palpable.
As for my worst cinema experience, Iman Bahari, that happens quite often in Malaysian cinemas. Whenever there is some fuckwit on his phone constantly, some guy who can't stop chatting through it because he's mansplaining everything that's happening on screen to his girlfriend, or some idiot who decides to bring his little child to an 18 rated movie, and the kid is just making so much noise and he does nothing to control his child. Like, all of this is just awful. And I've reached that point where I give no shits. And I'm just like, "Oi, can you shut the fuck up?" There's this lack of social consciousness where you think just because you've paid for a ticket that you forget that other people have put their hard-earned cash towards this as well, right? And you just don't care about anyone else's experience at the cinema except your own.
Yep, that's one, but I have a very specific example for mine. I was in the UK studying in 2011. It was Raya, first day of Raya. But because we're in the UK, there was nobody around. I went to London to stay with a friend, but he had to work that day, so I was left to my own devices. I decided to go watch a movie at Leicester Square. I think it was the Odeon. I went to go see Horrible Bosses.
Nice.
Well, that was the first movie I had seen in the UK. In fact, that was the first movie I had seen outside of Malaysia. And I was shocked at the sheer lack of ceremony within the movie. Right? The hall is small. It's a hall about as big as my current house. It's also long. So there were 3 rows, I think, of about 7 seats each, with the screen off center.
I think if anyone hasn't been to the UK or the US to watch movies, they will be shocked at how shitty cinemas are in the UK and the US. When we go to Bangkok, for example, we get very excited because of all their luxury cinemas, but actually Malaysian cinemas are a class above. They are so great. We are spoilt over here. Only when you go to some small Odeon in some small shitty town in England will you realize how little they care about their cinemas.
I didn't even go to a small shitty Odeon, my friend. I was at the Odeon at Leicester fucking Square.
Christ.
I was shocked that the screen was off-centered to the seats.
I still don't understand why they don't have numbered seating.
I don't understand why they don't
still
have
fucking
numbered
free seating. It's so annoying.
So, Imam Bahari, that would be my worst cinema experience.
Yes. Well,
Also because that ticket cost me a lot of money.
exactly. That's the other thing. You went to Leicester Square some more.
Leicester Square some more. I thought I'd treat myself, Raya.
Sure.
Yeah.
Ended up paying 20 quid for a ticket.
Should have gone to see a play or something.
Well, thank you so much for your questions, folks. Keep them coming in. We hope we've managed to give you some satisfying answers. You know how to reach out. Goggler MY, all of our social media feeds. You can also email us on podcast@goggler.my or send us a WhatsApp on the Goggler hotline 012-524-5208. This has been Ask Us Anything on the Goggler Podcast. Thank you so much for listening.